Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Coach Michael Chandler. I'm here just to give some information on latest news, current events, but I'm giving you a healthy perspective and a more informed perspective than you may get from other channels. Um, I want to address a lot of the stuff going on with the Fat Joe comments. Uh, and then we'll segue into the relationship thing with Remy and Papoose. But let's back up, give some backstory. Uh, Being black in America, right? A lot of terms are used interchangeably. Some people would consider themselves African Americans. Some people will call themselves black. Some people will say, well, neither one. Uh, I'm an American, right? And you'll hear Floyd Mayweather. You can look that up. Has made that comment, as well as a lot of other black people. Either way, no matter what term, and then some people use the terms interchangeably. Some people don't mind being called black. Some people use both. However, if African American is the only thing to sign on some sort of application, then you'll just pick whatever the one that is on the application, etc. Right now, up until whew, I want to say maybe the last 5 years, maybe, but before that, possibly another brother. I forget his name. There have been terms used to try to get an understanding amongst the Black collective to identify ourselves as being, non-immigrants, right? Meaning that we want to let it be known that we're not Jamaicans, we're not Haitians, we're not uh, Cubans, we're not Puerto Ricans, etc. We're black, but we are Black Americans, meaning that we are descendants from the slaves that were brought into America, and we are from that lineage, right? Now, many black people know that, African Americans, whatever, and we have different ways of identifying, but there are some that have identified by calling themselves FBA, as in Foundational Black Americans, which we all are, whether it be Black, African American, or whatever. Whether you want to take on that title and put that next to your name or not, that's just a choice. But ultimately, foundational Black American is just something to describe somebody that's Black, African American, American, someone who's a descendant of the slaves that were brought here to America. Okay, it's pretty much that simple. All right. Now, because you have some that are more of a spokesperson that speak on being FBA a little louder and a little prouder, it doesn't mean that they're what you would consider a leader, because you cannot be a leader of a lineage, right? So you may have some people that, the FBA, you're a proud FBA, Black first, whatever. And then you have people that's Black and understand that they're descendants of slaves or whatever, right? Is there a need for us to distinguish ourselves? Yes, of course. Uh, we're not going to get lost in the sauce, and we're not going to be identified as something other than what it is that we are. I see how I want to go about this. Let's say when I was in LA, right? I drove for Uber about, let's say 2 years, 2 years, maybe three. This way back in the day, 2011, something like that. Uh, when I was driving, like a lot of different passengers, etc. It was a lot of people. One woman was a French woman. The other one was a white woman. A Middle Eastern couple, family. But sometimes I would have conversations while driving, and I would get them to where they're going. They like my personality so well that at the end of the ride, they're like, "Hey, man, what are you?" Right? And at first, I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I? I'm a man, right?" And it's like, "No, no, what are you, man? Like, where are you from?" Like, let her know, I'm from Oklahoma. I'm black. He's like, "Yeah, just black, like, no, whatever." And it took me a while to figure out that these people like me so much, they needed for me to identify something other than black because they had in their mind what they thought a black man was. And so, since I didn't subscribe to those norms or whatever it was that they had been programmed to think, they would try to throw me out of my race in order to make me fit and make me a better fit into their mind. If that makes sense. Okay, so there is a need to for us to identify. There is a need for us to I wouldn't say separate ourselves because we're not racist, but it is a need for us to let it be known what it is that we are. Caribbeans go out of their way to let it be known that, hey, I'm Caribbean. Here's my flag. Um, Africans, different countries, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should be proud of your heritage, your lineage, where you're from. Okay, but being that Black Americans, African Americans, foundational Black Americans, whatever, are from are descendants of slaves, and we're from here. Our flag is the American flag, and many people will call themselves by different things: Black, African American, foundational Black Americans, but it's all the same, right? Uh, but let's get into what the problem is. The problem is you have Fat Joe. Think he's of Puerto Rican and Cuban heritage. He's come out and said something on Matt Hoffa's platform to where he addressed foundational Black Africans as radical Black racists, and that's where the problem lies, right? You label a culture, a heritage, as a hate group, and that's what a lot of the backlash is for. This isn't necessarily those who he has a problem with. These are just Black people in general. Every foundational Black American or Black person is not necessarily a follower or who you of let's say Tariq Nasheed or Professor Black Truth, etc. But we do love who we are, and we are proud of being Black Americans. You understand? So when you come out your mouth and disrespect us, saying that we are radical racists, that's not true, and it should be something done about that, man. Um, I would look into as far as seeing what the legal implications are for that. Um, I really would. I don't think it would go nowhere, but I would look into it, and I would make sure that he didn't come out his mouth saying anything like that again. That's what I would do. But allegedly, this is supposed to stem from some beef between him and Tariq Nasheed. I looked a little bit into it. Um, I'm guessing what happened was is this started off with the question of who created hip hop, and Tariq Nasheed, in the effort to show the history of hip hop, how it started, show the foundation and the founders of it, was a project that he decided to do to show um, some of the accomplishments of foundational Black Americans, African Americans, what have you, right? And in doing so, he created a movie, right, a documentary of, and he got all the elders within hip hop on that documentary, and showed how it started, who were the players that were involved. I guess before this happened, Fat Joe had responded saying that it was 50-50, that blacks weren't the ones that started it, that it was 50-50 between blacks and Puerto Ricans. Now, Tariq Nasheed said that that wasn't true. And not only did he say it wasn't true, he showed that it wasn't true in his documentary called Microphone Check. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. So I guess that was supposed to be the end of it. However, here we are today with Fat Joe making comments talking about radical black racists. And my thing is for him to call somebody a radical black racist, that term is a term that was used by COINTELPRO in the late 60s toward groups like the Panthers and things like that of that nature. So I would question this. Why is he talking like that? Being that he is from the Bronx, being that he is who he is. Why would he be using those type of terms? Don't tell me it's because he's a professional now and he's changed his life, because he followed up behind it by calling us the N-word. He said that there are a bunch of broke NIGGAs, have you, right? And the way it was set up was after he called us radical black racists. The way it was set up was if he was trying to be hesitant on name calling and saying what it was that he wanted to say. But he paused and said, you want me to say it? Okay, I'll say it, as if he was doing something really bad, really tough, and then he goes on to uh, mispronounce what it is. He knows that it's foundational black Americans. He knows that it's not the foundation black authority. What that was is a shot to Jason Black, who has a platform called the Black Authority, who identifies as a foundational black American. He kind of represents that to the fullest. And so that's what he has a problem with. And then he goes on to talk about, their leader, and they're a bunch of broke black NIGGAs and all this type of stuff, right? So we have a lot to break down on what he said, and to identify who he is and what it is that he's doing. Okay. First, when you label someone a black radical racist, those are law enforcement terms, and those are terms used by COINTELPRO. And so my question is why is he talking like that and using that type of language? That's how I would want to look at it first. The other thing is if you consider yourself hood, ghetto, uh, which isn't necessarily black, a part of black culture anyway. But if you going so far as using the culture and calling them broke NIGGAs, then that would constitute that you're still kind of hood, still in the streets, but you're using these law enforcement terms like radical black racists. So I'm confused. Which one is it? Are you hood enough to say NIGGAs? Or are you professional enough to use law enforcement terms such as radical black racists? I've never seen someone ghetto, hood, or whatever use that type of language. And that's what's confusing me. And that's what I would invite anybody that's viewing this to try to get an understanding of, to try to figure out who this guy is and what's really going on here. I hope that makes sense, okay? The other thing, it says a lot about culture, hip hop culture, black culture, um, other cultures too. It's this new thing about if you have money, that means something. You can be broke and still be right. You can have money and be dead wrong. So the whole thing about somebody being broke and calling the whole culture of people broke is really kind of like kicking a man while he's down, and I just don't respect that at all. We understand that economically, black people are at the bottom. We get it. So is this a diss toward our entire culture, or is this a problem that you have with Tariq Nasheed and you're dealing with us by proxy? Maybe you didn't have the nuts to call out his name. Maybe Professor Black Truth was a weaker target. And you said their leader, and I'm looking at the information, and the leadership would suggest that it would be the loudest one in the room who states FBA first all the time, which would be Tariq Nasheed, being that you had a former uh, altercation or Twitter beef with him, X beef, whatever with him on the origins of hip hop, being that you thought it was 50-50 Puerto Rican and black. Tariq went to as far as to create the documentary to produce evidence of who actually started this thing. And you can argue what the point was or not, but bottom line is he proved his point. And instead of you being a man checking him or correcting him or citing him that you had a problem with, you went ahead and disrespected an entire culture. All foundational Black Americans aren't necessarily on the internet. All of us aren't necessarily followers of Tariq Nasheed, even though I do love and respect the brother. Don't get it twisted. Just because I won't put an FBA hashtag on my name doesn't mean that I'm going to go out my way to separate myself from somebody who does. But bottom line is, with Black Americans, we come in all different fashions of life, man. So when you come at FBA and you use a term like that, you need to have some sort of caution and some sort of respect because you're disrespecting the entire race. If there was a group of Cubans, right, and they call themselves Foundational Cuban Americans, right, FCA, right, Foundational Cuban Americans, and they separated themselves as, no, let's say they call themselves the first Cuban Americans, right? We're the first Cuban Americans. We are here in Miami, and this is our culture, and we celebrate our culture, our Cuban culture. We have the Cuban flag, etc. People would exercise caution with disrespecting them because they would understand that they're disrespecting an entire race, right? You would have a problem with one person that labeled themselves or called themselves a certain thing or had first Cuban Americans next to their name and then disrespect that entire thing because you have a problem with him. And then not even be able to say the man name. You'll say another man name, which is Professor Black Truth, the Black Authority, and kind of put it all together and make it seem like you're oblivious to who these people are and as if this is some small group of people, when indeed it is Black people, period. And the fact that you don't have any concern whatsoever, and the fact that you said that in front of so-called Black people who you said it in front of. Now I understand Matt Hoffa is from Belize or something like that, so I get it. They got a good laugh and thought it was funny. I don't expect them to have our perspective, but the fact that you did say it lets us know that it was a lot of people agreeing with you because the laughter was really loud. You know, as far as what to do about it, some people going out their way saying you should boycott them or whatever. But man, boycott who? I mean, let's just be real. This isn't a diss. This isn't a jab. Nobody's looking for no new Fat Joe music. That's just the facts. Other than what? Lean back. I don't think of anything that I can think of that has any reference or any reverence of anything, right? The other thing is I believe he has some comments to say about Lord Jamar, saying that Lord Jamar is a has-been legend, and that I think he said, yeah, he's a has-been legend. He doesn't basically alluded to him no longer having a legendary status, and that he's crazy because some other people call Lord Jamar crazy because I guess he's a flat earther and he has different theories, etc. But him being with the nation, not the nation, I'm sorry, well, yeah, nations of gods and earth, I can see how he may have a different calculation. This man isn't too crazy because he actually backs up what it is that he thinks. Now, whether he's out there with some of his views and some of his calculations, that's neither here nor there, and that's your own personal opinion. Um, but he's invited Neil deGrasse Tyson for a conversation. He's pretty much backed everything that he said. That's one. But far as Brand Nubian is concerned, man, once a legend, you can't take someone's legendary status. So I'm seeing a man that's intentionally taking a brother's legendary status, calling black people a bunch of black radical racists, saying that we're a bunch of broke NIGGAs, and that we only partially started hip hop. It seems to me that this man's a thief. He wants to take something from black people. What's behind the mind of somebody that just wants to take from black people? That's what I would invite people to think about. What's going on there? Just think about that, all right? Uh, Other than Lord Jamar, where's the other issues come from? Um, yeah, that's pretty much it as far as my limited amount of research. Far as somebody being a legend, that's like our legend. But ironically, during that interview at Math Hoffa, because they took it down, so you can't really see it no more. You got to go to somebody else's channel where they break it down. But he mentioned something about the ancestors and how the ancestors would be mad and all that, right? And how I think and how I invite you to think when it comes to, let's say somebody that's godly, right? The evidence of who I am is I kind of match what I say, you know. So you have a man talking about the ancestors would be mad and alluding to needing to honor the ancestors and having an understanding of the ancestors. But then on the flip side, you actually disrespecting Lord Jamar, saying that he's a has-been legend and that he's crazy now and that he's washed up and that he's no longer a legend anymore. So how on one end are you going to sit up here and say something about the ancestors, respecting the ancestors? And then here in the physical earth, you disrespect the elders of hip hop. There's a lot going on. And I want y'all to be able to read between the lines on what's really going on. Okay. And that's just my conjecture. Um, that's just, my thoughts about it. I don't expect you to agree with everything. And I may change my mind on some things. But what I will do is not let my people be out there voiceless and not have someone to help them to be able to think and reach a higher plane. Okay. If you understand what it is that I'm saying, you can read between the lines, or you just feel the vibe that I give off and you like the information. Like and share the video, man. I'm Coach Michael Chandler. One love.